What's up, guys? So as you can see, we've made a few upgrades here, and I would like to point out, just in case anybody was going to point it out before, I realize I'm supposed to be using the backdrop that's back there, but for some reason it's unfortunately disgusting and it's got some big stain on it, so I can't quite use that, so we're just using the bottom of the light box for now. And what I have today is actually something I completed a few weeks ago, and it's not, I wouldn't say complete actually, there's still some things I'd like to do with it. And it's kind of just been sitting around for a few weeks, so I guess I'm finished with it for now, and I might revisit it later, because I'm pretty happy with it for now, but there is a few things I'd like to change when I eventually find the pieces I'm looking for. But what we have here is an alternate build, kind of, slash a MOC, slash a big-ass mod for the 75105 Millennium Falcon. Now, this isn't using only Millennium Falcon pieces, of course. Unfortunately, I wish it were so everybody could make it. It's just using a little bit extra. Originally, it was using only Millennium Falcon pieces. So you can make one kind of like this with the pieces that come with the set. But this, since I've revisited it after a while, it's not with those pieces. So quick little story. When I first moved to where I live now, we didn't have internet for a few days. And of course, my only option was going to be playing with some sick Legos. And I didn't know what to do. I didn't have any new Lego sets that I needed to build. And that's I would say the first time I got into making alternate builds was I tore apart my The Force Awakens Millennium Falcon, and I made DENGAR'S Punishing One. And it was great, it was fun, but it was real weak structurally, it wasn't my favorite, and a few weeks ago I was bored, and because I've got this YouTube channel going now, I decided I should revisit it and make it real nice, real clean and official, and that's what I've done, and I'm incredibly proud of this. So this is DENGAR'S Punishing One. Now, the most unfortunate part about this is that I don't own a set that has actually come with the Dengar figure. Eventually, I hope to get one of the original Dengars, because that face mask, ski mask piece that they used way back when was amazing. Now, we can't really do front to back on this one since it's pretty much in a circle shape, but luckily the interior is just a tube, so we will go over exterior, then we'll head inside. Before we go over everything, I would like to apologize. A few pieces on this, not too many, are unfortunately disgusting and they have a stain on them that I probably did when I was younger, and I apologize for that, but I couldn't find the replacement pieces immediately. I was only using a limited amount of things and I couldn't find the pieces I needed without the stains on it, so I apologize. But the first thing I did when I revisited this is I tore it apart and I made a Technic structure of Technic beams and bricks, of the relative shape of DENGAR'S Punishing One. So underneath this, there is Technic structure going all the way underneath this, completely supporting this curve here, supporting this arm, and supporting all the way out here. And I'm incredibly proud of that. My goal with alternate builds is, if it's not up to Lego playability quality, I'm not a huge fan. That's what I try and go for, because I want to be able to play with it, and I want other people to be able to play with it as well. So that's what I go for, and I wanted this to be durable. So I can't grab it from this side, even though all the weight is on the left. I am grabbing it from the right, and it's doing just fine. It's not going to fall apart. Same thing over here. Do the same thing, and you're chilling. So starting up at the front, I did put two nice little neat laser cannons here. They look pretty good, and I just wanted to have something separate from this turret. While the turret looks cool as the weapon itself, I did need him to have something else that wasn't just a turret on the side. You need to have something directly in front of him, and that makes it pretty easy to lay down fire on your targets, especially when you're in line with those barrels. And then going around, we'll start on this side first. We just have some greebling made up from, of course, the Millennium Falcon parts there, and it's all stuck on. It's connected here at the front, once over here on the side, and then once on this other side here. The rest of it is just kind of hovering through the clips, and I tried to fill in the gap as best as I could. Some places was pretty unavoidable without going all out MOC Maker crazy and getting really in those gaps, but I didn't really want to do that with this. And then going around the outside, like I said, it's kind of finished, but it's kind of not. I did want to fill this up more. I did want to leave this blank, but I wanted to fill this up and curve it out a little bit more right there, but I just couldn't quite do it. And like I said, it's been just sitting inactive for a few weeks, so I'd call it good for now, but we may end up revisiting it in the future. And then going down, this section is unfortunately plain. I couldn't figure out any other greebling to do, and I didn't need any other turrets on the ship, so I just stuck with one little vent going here, and the other two are on that opposite side that we'll go over. And it's unfortunately plain, but it still looks pretty good in my opinion. You don't always need to do something, and sometimes doing less is more. Then going on the side here, we do have the turret, double barrel turret, and I added the nice orange studs on the bottom there to kind of simulate some ammo feeding. Let's see if that'll focus on that. So I did use some orange studs on the bottom there to kind of simulate some ammo feeding, or somewhat of a weak point. If you were to get a really well-placed shot on the turret, right on those studs, you'd probably explode the whole thing. So that's kind of what that's supposed to look like, and it just looks pretty neat as well. And we got one of the sticker bricks that came with the Falcon sitting there on the back for some extra detail, like a control panel or maybe just some plating going. And I did smooth it all out completely on the bottom so it can rotate freely. So unfortunately there is one small section that the turret can't hit when targets are behind it. And it can rotate, oh Jesus, focus. So it can rotate almost 360 degrees. It gets stopped right there, and going around this way it gets stopped right there. So there's a small, somewhat of a triangle shape going about right here where it can't hit enemies, and it's pretty unfortunate, but I had to make that happen because I wanted to add some greebling right here on DENGAR'S punishing one with the reference photo I use. I'll flash it up on the screen at some point, or maybe I'll have it in the beginning of the video. There was kind of something going on this inside little winglet here next to the turret, so I did kind of want to emulate that, and it does look pretty cool to me, even though it does limit the turret's turning ability, I guess I would say. It still does look pretty cool, and it adds a little bit of detail to an otherwise plain area. Then going around this backside in between the two main parts of the punishing one, I just wanted to add some detail. Again, I did want to add more here, but it overall doesn't look too bad. It's got some interesting hoses going, just a grill piece, and some slopes to help kind of break up that shape. And then going down the side, you can see I used that engine piece, or the engine tube that came with the Millennium Falcon, and DENGAR'S punishing one doesn't actually have an engine going down the side of it in there. I just thought it'd be cool to add that in there, and I did want to use that tube somehow because I didn't want to lose it in my collection somewhere. And overall, I think it looks pretty cool. Like, it doesn't serve much purpose. Engine's pointed that way, but I like to think that it's all pointed this way somehow. And then going over the back, as well as the back of this little winglet, I was planning on adding an engine here, but I didn't have another translucent blue dish piece to use right there, so it's just smoothed out as some armor plating and some little bit of detail. And going on the back, we do have the two engines there with the translucent blue dishes, and as well as some nice engine detail going with whatever these pieces are, but whatever they are, thank you to whoever invented them. They make for fantastic greebling. And then going up top, even though the sticker isn't symmetrical, so it looks kind of wonky going horizontal like that, I did want to use the stickered pieces because, again, I don't want to lose them in my collection when I could just put them on a set and know where they are for future reference if I could use it somewhere else better. Going up top, these are the main pieces that I know aren't from the Millennium Falcon. These are from the extra Black Widow chopper I had lying around, and I needed some more greebling, and I needed to fill out this roof piece here, and ultimately I didn't have enough small pieces to do it, so I just went with these little half tubes instead. Then going up here from the Millennium Falcon, we do have we'll flip this around, we do have the stickered hallway pieces that were up top, and I wanted to use that on here for my nice shuttle streamlined tube interior, and it ultimately helps the shape and it looks great as some more extra detail. And the people who have the Millennium Falcon, or pretty much any iteration of the Falcon, will notice I kept half of the cockpit stock. Like, I kept this sloping area right here completely stock, and what's behind him, just because the shape was too perfect. They nailed it on the Falcon on smoothing things over, so I just had to copy it over, and it looks great. So come back up to the front here, I use these wing pieces here to cover up the gaps that normally this cockpit piece would end up causing on a normal set, but luckily these wings fit almost perfect in there to completely shut it and make it look sealed. Then going down the left side, we do have those two vents that I mentioned earlier because I used the one on the other side. This side, I also wanted to add more, but honestly, it looks fine to me. Maybe I just was thinking about overdoing it, but I'm still happy with where it is. Going down the side for the paneling, right here, I honestly, when I'm playing with it, I actually didn't intend for this to be like a bombing feature, because that would be the biggest weak point you could have on a ship. Like, one shot from a turbo laser or even just a laser cannon on a ship and boom, your whole thing's toasted. But I was playing with this as a bombing feature. Like, this would just ring, like, latch forward and then chew, like a seismic charge kind of on the Slave 1. But that would be a pretty big weak point, so I don't know how sold I am on if that's actually a feature. And down the side, we just have the detail on the panels continuing all the way around, and I wanted to use these nice tile pieces to help simulate an extra layer on top of the wings going around, and it looks okay, but I wish I had more of the rounded tiles to do it with. Going around back here, we just continue the paneling, and we've revisited the back. Now, and it's not quite necessary, but this is the bottom half of it. It is all completely smooth on one layer. That's one thing I'm really proud of. That is partially in part to the Technic structure is built upon just one layer, and it just looks great. Alrighty guys, as you can see, this interior is pretty much going to be a tube, but I'm still pretty happy with what I packed in there. And one of the things I'm happiest about that I made happen on this set is actually sitting right beneath that roof right there. So we'll get to that as soon as we can, but first we're going to start up with the cockpit. So to get in there, we're going to fold down these front cannons, and we do have to take off these nice wing pieces. Take off the tile there, tilt this on up. Oh. And then as well on the other side, we got to take that tile up. And now you can see the gaps. If I just wanted to use straight square plates, it wouldn't have quite have worked and it would have looked real wonky. So once we have it here, then you can just pull off that cockpit piece and you have your interior. So I tried to pack this with as many details as I could. Some nice little fire extinguisher heads on the back to simulate some piping there. I did use the tan slope pieces as some furniture, as I do believe DENGAR'S ship in universe is a Corellian craft. It would share some features like this being part of the hallway furniture and the side furniture, as the Millennium Falcon does. And then I kept that gunner seat that they had in the Millennium Falcon together as my pilot seat. It is on a swivel, but where he's sitting, he can't quite swivel, and I just needed to elevate him so we could actually look out of the cockpit. So something for Han to pilot, he has two of the little antenna pieces as some joysticks going there, and then he does have the printed console there. We're going to get him out of there and see if we can get a better angle. We do have the printed console in there, and then I did use these blue studs as kind of like a holographic map or a holographic HUDs popping up in front of him to help give him some information on what's going on with his ship. And again, more detail in there would be nice, but I didn't have the colored slow bricks or anything that I needed to quite accomplish that. Alrighty, moving to this next section, we will actually have to expose both sections. They are in the same area, but I consider them two different spots. So to do that, we have to lift up this portion first. I added on this nice little handle. Although it does sit in there, you can't really use it. You can use it once it's popped out. And then on both sides of this roof piece back here, there are no plates there, so you can get your fingers under there, and it's just attached by two studs up there at the front, and you get your full interior. Now, because of the awkward shape of this ship, it's going to be kind of hard to go over, so we're going to head over to this front section here. And help get some extra space, you can actually pop off these sides. These are only attached by two studs. I did that on purpose so I could get in here because I knew it'd be much easier to get inside and play in here if we could pop off these side panels. So going in there, as you can see, I added a little bed with a nice little shelf for Dengar, or in this case Han Solo, to sleep on. So there's a nice little crew quarters there for one person. So going in there, as you can see, I've added a bed and a nice little, whatever the hollow chest is. I unfortunately don't know what it's called. And a nice little shelf sitting underneath that arch. Although that's pretty silly and I didn't fill it out too well, I'm kind of proud of that. Like I wouldn't have ever thought of using that archway space as a shelf, but ultimately you can actually make use of that if you think a little more outside the box than just bricks. And then that bed is just kept together originally from the Millennium Falcon set. And then sitting here, that feature I was pretty proud of earlier. So early on in building this, I kind of wanted to have an elevator going down and out of the ship for the people to get out rather than just a regular access ramp. And I tried to do it with some Technic to actually bring up and down the elevator. So ultimately that didn't work. But what I have now I'm kind of proud of. It doesn't quite accomplish that, but it accomplishes it enough to make me happy. So to engage this little landing platform, it's actually with this big Technic pin that was sitting out in the middle. We're going to push this down, and I have my hand underneath to help support it. Now, of course, like I said, I didn't accomplish this all the way, and it does just freely fall out from that point. But it does make for a nice little elevator. If you are at the right angle, I can't show it on camera because the camera's on a tripod and it's sitting up high. But if it is laying flat, it does somewhat emulate an elevator coming out. And then from the inside, you can't actually put it back in. You just put the two clipped areas back in first, and then the sides with the cheese wedge. You pull up with your Technic pin, and once you have it in, just push these back down. Oops. Push these back down, lock it in underneath your hollow chest, and the hollow chest actually will barely, the hollow chest will barely press down on that Technic pin if you angle it like that to help kind of lock it in position. So I'm now no longer supporting the platform, and it's going to stay there. And going down the side, just have a little control panel because the brick I used, I believe, was 6 studs long, so it's helping support this wing, and I needed to cover up those studs there, so we just used a little panel. Going to the rear section, we have R2-D2 and some random resistance guys in here. We'll get them two out of here to showcase our small interior there. So sitting back here, we just have a nice storage container, and we do have seating areas. I did want to use these seating stickered bricks because they look really good as Corellian furniture and just some nice couches. So they kind of are used as headboards now. Unfortunately, the slow bricks I used up there earlier in the cockpit, so they aren't being used as seats. But it still looks great. It helps make it look like it's Corellian architecture all the way through the ship. And they do fold down, although they don't need to because they're like flat up against the wall anyways. You saw I had the one minifigure sitting there, but if you really wanted to, you might be able to jam 3 minifigures in just this one area here. 4 if you really went for it. And this on this backside, it's going to be kind of hard to see that panel, so we're going to fold that down and hope that makes it a little easier. We can't quite get in there. But on the sides there, let's see if you can see it there. Oh man, I did not make this set camera ready. So on the sides there, you can just barely see it, but I used more of the stickered dashboard flashing lights pieces that came with the Millennium Falcon over on the side to help simulate some dashboards, because I do believe this back area is kind of like an engine monitoring area to help do some engine maintenance, and also a secondary gunner seat if the pilot isn't controlling the turret over on the side. So we have the one big stickered panel there that was on the gunner seat originally, and then we have the 2 smaller panels sitting on the side that you can barely see. Going on the right side, you can't quite see it because it's real dark in there, but I just have one black slope brick and then a nice little, almost thermal detonator looking cylinder sitting there to help fill out the area. Alrighty guys, so that's pretty much it, and before this day, I never really considered myself a MOC maker. I was always just a modder and a guy who made alternate builds, but at this point, something like this I would kind of think stretches into the MOC category at this point, because it's not quite made with just one set or a few sets. Like for the most part, it's the Falcon, but a lot of it is just pieces that I happen to have around me at the time. So I do believe that this stretches into MOC category, and I could say that this is my first MOC, and if it is, I'm pretty proud of it. But other than that, I hope you guys did enjoy. I was really hyped to make this video, especially with the new setup we got going. And let me know what you think of the setup, if it helps, if it doesn't. Give me some feedback on that, and we'll work from there. But I hope you guys did enjoy this. This is DENGAR'S Punishing One, and I'll see you guys next time. Peace, fellas.